was every element, every part of his, from the intelligence to the counter assault team to the detail agents to the shift agents. I mean, every element, top to bottom, of the advance in the operation was every element increased after you learned of this credible threat.
What we increased was what we felt was appropriate for the former president and for that particular event on that day. We have been increasing the assets and the resources and the staffing that we have been providing to the former president since he was a presidential candidate and then the presumptive nominee. That's what I can tell you.
That sounds like a no.
I am not saying a no at all. I'm saying that we have continued to increase the resources that we've been providing.
Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged.
As you called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye.
So I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get a unhappy surprise, I think.
I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you.
You're listening to Trump Mafia, 100% Trump America first. And now here's TM.
Hey, it's me, and welcome to this video. Thanks for listening. You know, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your comments, even though I know that YouTube deletes many of your comments. Just keep on posting, and I read all the comments. And so I want to talk about the shooting and some of the people in the context of the shooting and the lack of security at the Butler farm in Pennsylvania where President Trump was shot. You know, President Trump should be dead by now because that was a successful attempt. Only by divine intervention and a 1 in a trillion chance did President Trump survive. A tilt of the head, a swivel of the head, avoiding to get 2 bullets into his skull. President Trump is supposed to be dead right now, and that's what they counted on. Now, of course, I think about Paul Ryan, who for years now has been saying that President Trump will not be the GOP nominee. And at first you go, okay, this idiot is just wishing that he will not be, and he's hoping that the lawfare has an effect, that Ron DeSantis would be successful, or then Nikki Haley. And later on, it started to become a little bit weird when he was saying that Trump will not be the GOP nominee when he's winning all the primaries by a lot. And even recently, a month ago, he was saying that Trump will not be the GOP nominee. Now, this shooting happened just before the GOP convention where he would be officially nominated. Now, President Trump was supposed to be dead, and you would have a GOP convention with a dead nominee, so they would give it to Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. So why did Paul Ryan seemingly know that President Trump will not be the GOP nominee when the lawfare was failing and he was winning all the primaries? He was set to be officially nominated. Why would he still be telling people that Trump will not be the GOP nominee? That is extremely suspicious in my book. Now let's turn to Jill Biden. As you know, she has been the one really pushing Joe Biden to run again. She likes the perks. In an interview recently, she was raving and gushing about the Secret Service and how traffic is stopped just for her motorcade. And she said, for me, right? Like she's a princess and she loves the perks. She wants 4 more years in the White House. Suddenly she's respected, or at least she feels respected. You know, if she's insisting that everybody calls her doctor when she just has some PhD in education, you know, gifted to her because Joe Biden gave money to the university or whatnot. You know, that's a person that has an ego problem or a self-esteem problem. And having been married to an incredible idiot who's always touching women, little kids, you have to wonder how frustrated she had been. And she was the laughingstock every time. Because in Congress, Joe Biden was considered the dumbest senator ever. But now she's the queen or princess. And she can't quit it. She wants more of it. 4 more years of perks and living like a princess, living like a queen. and she hates President Trump. Now, guess what? The director of the Secret Service, who is completely unqualified, she worked for Pepsi in some office. Suddenly she's the head of the Secret Service. It's supposed to be very elite, but she becomes the director, right? And it's all DEI, and we have to have 30% women in the Secret Service. But she's a close personal friend of Jill Biden, and that's how she got the job. Now, if you are a family like the Bidens and you have a crackhead son, you have other people possibly doing cocaine, and you read the reports of Joe Biden skinny dipping in front of the Secret Service, which included female agents, naked, and kind of proud of it, right? Trying to intimidate the female Secret Service agents or whatever. And you have foreign business dealings, you have visitors in Delaware that they're hiding. Everybody that shows up there could be the Choco people, like Obama people, and it could be the Chinese, could be the Muslim Brotherhood, could be Hamas people. We don't even know because they're hiding it, and the Secret Service is supposed to be quiet. Now, if you have a close personal friend as a director of the Secret Service, then you're not going to have tattletaling. You can control everything. And you can give Jill Biden even more perks, like treating her like she's the president. And the security detail for Jill Biden in Pennsylvania was composed of more veterans and experts than the security for President Trump, also in Pennsylvania at the same time, where you had gaps that had to be filled with local police officers. So you have a security lapse at the Butler farm at the Trump rally because Jill Biden needs extra protection. Like, she's even more important than the president of the USA or the leading contender to be President 47, President Trump. Now, what's with the ego and the low self-esteem? And what is it with the Biden family that they really need to have tight control over what the Secret Service can do and see, and that they don't talk about what they see, right? It's kind of like the Biden family doctor. He's a close family friend. He got $200,000 from the Bidens. And of course, he's going to say anything they want, like, oh, yeah, Joe Biden's perfectly fit to be president. There's nothing wrong with him because it's a friend and he's getting paid. He'll say anything. In the same way, the head of Secret Service is a personal friend, just like Jill Biden. Kimberly Cheetos also hates Trump. Now, why would you put a Trump hater in as the head of Secret Service? Then we come to Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Now, this goofball was the AG in 2020 during the election, and he was the one that came out in the media at 10 p.m., I think it was, when Trump was ahead by 800,000 votes in Pennsylvania, saying, hey, millions and millions of ballots still need to be counted. And that was a big shock. And to me, that was an indication of something going on that I didn't even expect. But that guy was key. Shapiro. As a reward, he becomes governor. But as AG, of course, he has a lot of contacts in law enforcement. And at the Butler farm, during the Trump rally, you had the gaps being filled by law enforcement officers in Pennsylvania. And it means their superiors are also close friends of Shapiro, the governor. So you have a director of the Secret Service saying, okay, don't guard the rooftop. You have Shapiro, the governor, former AG, telling the locals, well, don't go on the rooftop, stay inside of the building. Yeah, snipers staying inside of the building. That doesn't even make sense. Are they playing video games? Snipers are supposed to be outside, elevated positions, not inside of a building seeing nothing. Plus, spotters were not assigned to these snipers, and we're talking about local police, right? So you have the Secret Service and the local police both acting in a very incompetent way and a callous way. And this is calculated. And is it that Shapiro and Cheetos combined, really, to dramatically decrease the security at the Butler farm for the Trump rally? And of course, my answer is yes, that's what happened. That cannot be denied. And then we come to the fascist in chief, Joe Biden, who just a few days before the Trump rally at the Butler farm said that Trump is about to be challenged like he's never been challenged before. And he had that sinister look on his face. You know, this guy has dementia, right? So one of the symptoms, I guess, or one of the behaviors is that the filter leaves, right? They say things that they shouldn't be saying, or they let things out that they're supposed to keep in. And that's kind of like half out, half in, right? And he also said, also a couple of days ago, like it's time to put a bullseye on President Trump. Was that a code? Was that like a signal? Like, do it now? And a few days later, he gets shot. So Joe Biden, who is known to be calling President Trump all kinds of names, but telling people he's a threat to democracy, almost trying to justify the assassination of the man, and then specifically giving some kind of a code, like put a bullseye on him, it's time. That's what he said. And then Trump is about to be challenged like he's never been challenged before. Yeah, well, he hasn't been shot before. It's a first, so he's right in that. But you look back at some of his speeches talking about MAGA extremists, and, you know, it's the rantings and the ravings of a fascist. Joe Biden is a fascist. And he is trying very hard to get rid of his opponent. He tried with the lawfare and it was failing. That's why they went to Plan B. And Plan B is what happened at the Butler farm, Pennsylvania. 100%. Now, these are key people, in my opinion, in the context. You have Jill Biden wanting to stay in the White House, hates Trump. Her best friend is director of the Secret Service, who then has all these lapses and comes up with bogus comical stories about a slope, and we cannot put agents up there. I mean, listen, Secret Service agents are trained to throw their bodies in front of bullets, right? Taking bullets and getting hurt to protect the person. But she was worried that they would be on a rooftop breaking their ankles or something. That doesn't even make sense. The slope was very slight. And at the same time, you had counter snipers on a very slopey roof nearby. So what she said doesn't even make sense. Plus, doesn't make sense that the whole building, the surrounding, the access to the rooftop was not secured at all. Why are all these police officers told to be inside and there's not even a patrol or nothing? And that brings me to the final point, which I talked about before in the other video, which is the counter sniper team. They had the guy in their scopes, and, you know, some media people were saying, yeah, but what if he was just holding a telescope or a fishing rod? You can't just shoot somebody. But they have scopes. They can see the detail of what he's doing. If the shooter was picking his nose, they would see the detail of it. And they saw him preparing, aiming the weapon, and they did not take him out. It's very obvious they have orders to wait for the shooter to shoot, then to shoot him. Meaning that there were orders given that a would-be assassin gets the first shots in. And that is perhaps the worst of it all, of what transpired. Because they could have taken this guy out. I mean, that's why they're there on the rooftop, right? To take out a threat. An ordinary police officer, if you have somebody pulling out a gun, there's people nearby, and he's starting to aim, you shoot the guy. I mean, that's standard procedure. It's not complicated. But when it comes to President Trump and the Secret Service and counter snipers, for some reason somebody told them that they have to wait until this guy can get off some shots, then to shoot him. And that indicates to me that whoever gave the order is complicit in the attempted assassination of President Trump, because it goes against every protocol and every procedure, and it goes against common sense. Why would you give somebody the chance to shoot first? I mean, wow. And as you can see from all the graphics that came out, if President Trump didn't tilt his head or swivel his head, he would have been dead, headshot. In fact, 2 bullets would have been in his skull. I mean, he would have been dead, 100%. And to think about that, it makes me so upset, because you have people now talking about, oh, it's Iran, look at Iran. And you have people even saying that it didn't even happen. And you have the media at first playing it down, popping noises, and Trump fell, and they knew he didn't fall. They knew those were gunshots. But they had orders to play it down because they didn't want to cause a panic in the nation, because we're talking about assassinating the next president of the USA. And so they missed. And they will try again. And that's why we have to have a spotlight on some of these people that in the context are co-responsible for creating the intentional lapse in security. Intentional lapse in security. And so, of course, part of this lapse in security, the intentional, I repeat, intentional lapse of security, can also be taken in the context as involving the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Evil. Yeah, he looks like Dr. Evil. Mayorkas, right? So you have a head of DHS that actually opened the border, let millions and millions and millions of illegals in, many of them gangsters, criminals, rapists, and the resulting crime wave in our nation endangered many Americans. Many girls were raped because of what he did. So this is not a person who cares about our nation or about Homeland Security, yet he's the head of DHS. And Secret Service falls under DHS, so he's responsible for that as well. And so he has a motive to prevent President Trump from becoming president, because, of course, President Trump would secure the border, something that Mayorkas does not want, ever, on a personal level and also on a professional level. Sometimes I think he's not even an American citizen. Who knows? Because he certainly doesn't act like one. Then Chris Wray, now the FBI, came out without even investigating, said, well, this was a lone gunman. He acted alone. Yet at the same time, they admitted that they could not yet break into his phone. But they somehow had that conclusion ready. Now, for those who know history, that's exactly what all of the media did as soon as JFK was shot. A lone gunman. He acted alone. And they kept on repeating it. And then suddenly they were talking about Cuba and Russia. Well, now they're suddenly talking about Iran. Look at Iran. And so we're seeing a similar pattern. In fact, if you look at the unsecured prime location that for some reason was not secured, it was also an intentional lapse in security. Catastrophic failures, right? It's all an accident, don't you know? And these people think we're stupid. Now, it's very obvious that these people may not have pulled the trigger, but they did everything in their power to enable somebody to get on the roof and take the first shots. And then the person is taken out. As you know, if you kill somebody, they can't talk. And the FBI is now fully in charge of the investigation, just like they're in charge of finding the pipe bomb guy, who will never be found. And so Nobody in the USA actually believes that the FBI will not do a cover-up. Of course they will. So you have DHS, Secret Service, Jill and Joe Biden. You have Kimberly Cheetos, Mayorkas, Chris Wray, and that's a wrap. Yeah, except they missed. Trump is still alive. And now they're getting nervous, right? They're coming up with all kinds of tall tales and comical, bizarre stories to explain away what really happened. And the media is already back to hating on Trump, almost like doing a rerun. And yes, they will try to assassinate him again before the election and even after the election, because everything that they want is the opposite of what the American people want. And the American people want President Trump as President 47. There's no way he's going to lose the election. There is just no way. So they see it like they have no choice.
A shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. A young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law.